on WCEG Network Radio.com. You can watch us on live Smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network. Good morning, my name is Ramona, and you are in Our Bilingual Place for the next hour. I hope you enjoyed. We are the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and YouTube, Instagram, and all the comments, all the opinions are responsible for the presenters, not for WCEG. Buenos días, ustedes están escuchando WCEG Network, nos pueden mirar en Smart TV, WCEG Network, en YouTube. Nosotros somos la comunidad, la comunidad que empodera al mundo entero. Ustedes nos pueden dar un like en Facebook, Twitter y en Instagram. Todos los comentarios, las opiniones contenidas en este programa no son responsabilidad de WCEG Network. Les agradezco esta mañana tan temprano que estén con nosotros y hoy vamos a hablar, a conmemorar el mes de la herencia afroamericana, el Black History Month. Y para eso vamos a hablar de un tema tan importante que es cómo las mujeres cambiaron, cómo las mujeres se empoderaron para tomar decisiones en todos los ámbitos, en los ámbitos de educación, los ámbitos de cómo criar a sus hijos de una manera diferente a la que nos criaron antes. Y les agradezco que se queden con nosotros este programa. Gracias. Thank you so much because it's very early today on Saturday, but we have commemorating right now the Black history. And all of these bring us new topics. And I want to honor how the women change and empower in the different fields. We haven't changed our mind. We haven't changed the way we are raising our children. And I think that is it was a big challenge for all of us to change, traditions and broke structures to be able to improve ourselves and improve the lives of our children. And all of this, the revolution that bring, all the fight for our past, our oldest, I think it worked because we opened our minds and we broke chains in all the, in all aspects of the life. But for women, I feel it has been tremendous more because we are used to just live and do what we do. We stay in home, we don't work, we just stay in home taking care for the house, the husband and children. And that has been a big improvement and very satisfying feeling that we are living our children different world. Mm-hmm. And I want to welcome Pauline. Pauline, thank you so much for being here with us. And can you talk a little bit about you?
Well, just to tell me, and thank you very much for inviting me, Ramona. I am honored always. You're my shiro. My name is Pauline Mansfield, and I have been in Atlanta, oh my goodness, almost 50 years. I can't believe it. I'm originally from a little town, a community called Chapel Hill, Maryland, a place I love. I still love. And I was only there 18 years. I left Chapel Hill, came to Atlanta. Well, actually, I came to Atlanta to school, got married, then came back because I missed it so much. And Atlanta means so much to me. In Atlanta, for all of those years, I was a mother, a role I really enjoy. I have two beautiful children. And I worked for over 25 years in healthcare. I was a teacher for a minute. God bless all teachers and healthcare workers. So I retired in 2012. And since that time, my life has just transformed. I have become something that I've always loved, that I used to do just as a hobby, and that's writing. And writing has now taken over my life. So that brings us up to today.
Yeah, yeah. And I know, I your life and my life, is similar. I think for most women is similar. At the beginning, just just living for our family, but then something happened that you have to learn something different. You have to sacrifice. You have to endure so many struggles. And as a woman, Pauline, can you telling us how difficult was that, transition for
Mhm.
you to be, to staying home, taking care for your family, but then just come out to the world and change everything you have been living. And, even because when you change, for example, to a job or, transitions your life, you have to learn so many different things, and you have to open your mind to things that you're not used to, and you feel so strange. I think I feel it's very strange in um different chapter in your life. How difficult was for you that?
Well, interestingly enough, not so. Um, I grew up with a mother who, even though she was home, my mother never learned to drive.
Mm,
Um, she was not a person who did things outside of the home just because, and at that time, that's what happened. That's just how things were. But my mother was very industrious. And I tell this story because, my mother was somebody I idolized because she was so tough. She was strong. And without saying it, she implanted that in me. I mean, she always had a little business on the side. She was a tailor, made clothes. She was a notary public, so she notarized documents for people in my community. She was a very quiet woman who just went about her business, doing what she had to do, taking care of her children. But at the same time, she wanted to do what she loved. Sewing was what she loved.
mm,
And she knew that she had to make a way out of no way, because my dad had a job where he traveled. He was on the road all the time. So my mother just made it happen. And that's what I saw. So, when I became an adult and started a family, I stayed home for a short while, Ramona, not long. I was home when my children were born. I wanted to be home with them, and I had the luxury of doing that.
mm,
So I was home through the birth of my son, Michael, and then Jennifer, and I absolutely loved that. I wanted to create a world for them where their mother was there all the time. Everybody does not have that luxury, but I knew I couldn't do that forever because I had to add to the income. And so I went back to work as a teacher. And fortunately, teaching was something I loved, and it doesn't have the challenges that today's teachers have. God bless them. And when I first started teaching, I taught in a private school. So I was able to take both of my children with me. I was spoiled in that sense. So they were right there at the school. I knew what was happening to them at every moment. So that was very comforting to me. That was a gift in and of itself. As they grew older and I changed professions and went into healthcare, of course, that wasn't possible. But by that time, they were old enough that I didn't have to worry about them like, I would have when they were babies. And so my transition into the work world was probably a little different from some people because I had some privileges that other people did not have. When I got into healthcare, that became a mission for me because I never saw myself in healthcare. I saw myself doing something totally different. But in healthcare, I found a mission. And my mission was to help people. I don't think you know this, Ramona, but my job in healthcare was as employee advocate. I was a recruiter first, where I hired people for jobs. And in that way, I was helping people. So I love that. But when I came an employee advocate, I became a fighter for employees. And very like you, who's a fighter for all people, I knew I had stepped into what I really was destined to do. And so I spent most of those years in healthcare fighting battles over and over and over and over again for people. And I felt that I made a difference because employees in those days had no voice. So I was the voice for those employees. But when it was time, I was tired. I wanted to go home and do things I really loved. And that thing was writing. Now, when I started writing, as I said, I was just writing as a hobby. You know, I just loved it. And I started writing my story first. And I hadn't even considered publishing. I didn't even know anything about it. But the new world these days is a world of new discoveries, especially for women. We are stepping out into worlds that were denied us for so many years. And there are very strong, strong women out there who says, we can do what anybody else can do. And many women have paved the way for us. And just, they have become our voice and they have become our advocates. And I had a really good friend. Her name is Tom Macbeth. And I talk about her all the time because Tom Macbeth was my advocate, my pusher. I mean, she just shoved me into a whole new world. I was very satisfied with sitting here, writing at home, enjoying myself, doing it when I felt like it. And she said, Pauline, this gift is not for you. It's for the world. That was a powerful statement. And actually, when she said it, I didn't really hear it. I didn't want to hear it. I thought, well, I'm fine. I'm retired. I'm comfortable. Why would I do that? And I just, when I finished the book with all of her pushing and shoving, I was a new person. I could see through new eyes. I could see the power in words and what words do for people and how they can change people's lives. And so I then transitioned from a person who was just doing something for fun to someone who's doing something to help people through my pen. And the rest is this side of my history. That started in 2004. And in 2004, I just finished school and I saw the name of one of my graduate friends. I had finished graduate school and I met a set of friends who have been my buds forever. Loretta Searcy, I saw her name just a minute ago pop up on the screen. And what I learned in graduate school and the support from friends like Loretta and my 5G friends, we call ourselves, all of us, we were the 5 graduates. We were all 5 old graduates finishing school late. But with the help of so many people like that, and my friend Tom Macbeth, who's my sister friend to this day, she will be till our end. she made me see a whole new world. And so when I started writing, I wanted to help other people see a whole new world. So that's where I am now. I do it every day. And the saying is, find a job you love and you will never work again. That's where I am. I'm doing something every day. I can sit here, Ramona, for 6-7 hours writing. And it's just something I love, and I help others to write because this has been a growing process for me. That was a lot of words to tell my story of how I got to here.
That is amazing, Pauline. And many of you know or not know, but Pauline has been walking me through the journey for writing. And I'm very thankful for that, because it's true. You can see the world in a different perspective. It's like you open the eyes to so many new adventures that you never think it's gonna be possible you to be doing, or to looking, or going, or meet people, many different people that you can find, great people that open their arms and just embrace you, and like you say, just change the life for others. That, many people spend so much years and years trying to discover what is the mission in life,
Yes.
what is something that really fulfill them to keep doing. And thank you, Pauline, for share all of this, and
You're
thank
welcome.
you for the job you do with all of us, because it's, you are the light when we are looking, or we are trying to get to the point where we feel good. So thank you for that.
Well, let
Thank-
me say this, Ramona. Thank you for that. But I think this has been God's gift to me to, when I help someone else, they are helping me. I mean, when I started out, I knew nothing, Ramona, nothing. And I'm thinking, fortunately, I had someone to help me, Tom Macbeth, and she would connect me with other people. It was almost like a spider web. You see these little pieces link. She introduced me to someone who showed me the path to making a book.
Mhm.
And then I met other people in that same network who had done it. So I learned from them. When people started asking me, I was no expert, but I had a network already in this web, already established. So if I didn't know, I could send them to someone else. It's about our sharing our knowledge, what we know. So I do not know everything, but I have gotten to a place, Ramona, that I'm not scared to ask. And with this world of technology, Google is my best friend. I can ask Google anything and get an answer. I have learned to become a digger, and I wasn't a digger before. I grew up in an era where we had Encyclopedia Britannica. That was it. And if you didn't want to read, look it up in the encyclopedia, you were lost, left out. The other thing is, I grew up in an era of segregation. So truly, I honor Black History Month, because I grew up when we lived on this side of 210. That was the highway, not like it's like being on this side of the tracks. I lived on this side of Route 210. And on the other side was a community where we didn't go to unless we were going to work to clean their homes. So that's what all the women in my community did. They cleaned houses for people. I did it. And actually, I liked it. I did. it gave me a sense of autonomy. You know, I owned that space when I was doing it. I did it. Sometimes my mother and I would do it together. That's what we had. That's all we had at that time. And so my ticket out of that was education. And my parents didn't ask us if we wanted to go. There was no choice. We had to go. I mean, that was our way out. And so when I went to college, that gave me a whole other level of freedom. I went to an HBCU, a historically Black college. Loved it. I loved it. You know, I was there for 3 years and met and married, moved to another state, a whole new environment that was not HBCU. You know, so I felt a little lonely. I miss my people. I did. It was a totally different environment. I was in Chicago and I never really adjusted to that. So back to Atlanta, I ran. I love this town. I love this town and the people in it. And here in Atlanta, I found myself. I think if I had stayed in Chicago, I would not have. So back to that link, it's not just about one person. It's about establishing those connections that help to take us to another level. I'm sure you know that. You're the master in linking up to what will move you ahead. I have watched you do that. I don't even know for how many years, Ramona, I've watched you do that. You amaze me in what you do so quietly, making things happen, finding new roads, new connections. And I think that's what I just will continue to do, because every time I help somebody, that person is helping me.
Oh, thank you, Pauline. Yeah, it has been, I think we met in 2015. And since then, you know, we have been working together, even when we are far and we don't see so much each other right now. But you're very right. If you don't have connections, it's harder.
Yes.
That's why I encourage all the people to start making connections, start talking with people. You start with somebody. And I want to tell you something that, and it's, you know, I feel so honored to meet you and know about you and know about the struggles you have. And let me tell you, my one time you asking me what was something that keep me moving, and I was telling you that it keeps moving my past. It keep me moving, you know, remember where I come from. But once I start learning about this country, what I start learning about, you know, the struggles and the fights for Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, all the, you know, the Black community on those days, the struggle they have. And I start, you know, watching documentaries and listen people, all people, you know, talking about how was the days back, even when they go into the store, they have to be separated. They don't have to watch, you know, on the sides and all of that. When I remember when I was in college, in college, I was very discouraged at the beginning. My first year was so hard because my English wasn't perfect. I was in class, but I cannot understand everything because the teacher speaks so quickly. And many words I didn't understand. So it was like they were talking and I understand and they say one word and I miss everything. because I didn't know the meaning of the word. So February and March are for me are very special months, because it gave me encourage. It gave me encourage to think that so many people didn't have opportunity to get an education. So when I was discouraged in my classes, I was just thinking, I'm lucky to be taking classes, coming from another country and got the opportunity. I have to work more. I have to work more, because those who wanted to get the opportunity didn't have, but they left us, knowledge that we have to fight and we have to encourage ourselves to get education. And later I was listening, I was looking and listening some other words for other people. And I like, one day I see a quote, and the quote say, they are afraid because we are educated, or something like that. But many people got so afraid when they know that the person who they are dealing are educated, and they not gonna be able to, like push them down. So it's very, very true what you say, the word you say, that, um, getting education is the most powerful thing you can do. And teach our children to value the value of the education. It is more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Is so powerful. And so many people taking care to maintain a job, have, bring the children's everything they need, and don't value to spend time or money on the education. And hopefully our minds can change on that aspect, because even if you spend, $10,000 in education, it worth, because your child gonna have something better, gonna have knowledge that other people cannot have, But thank you, Pauline. So let me tell you one. Let me ask you this: Who was who was the person that, I know your friends, but we always have to dig and find, emotional support, or a strong. Who was the person, the woman, or who? What was that gave you a strong, extra strong to continue?
My mother first. My mother first. And referring back to that network of people, the strength has grown from women that I know over the years, particularly since I have started life again. I had a divorce and my life started all over again. And when that happened, I had a lot of supporters, both male and female. But my sister friends, oh my goodness, my sister friends they have held me up. I mean, they have truly held me up. They know when to, maybe not chastise, might be too strong a word. They know when to correct me, redirect me, and I won't start calling names because I'll leave somebody out. But I have a wonderful network of sister friends who make me laugh, because I think laughter is good for the soul, who just encourage me to keep going. I have several different groups of people. One strong group of people that you were a part of too, Ramona's Toastmasters. I mean, they're my family. And they have taught me to speak better. They have taught me to get out of my comfort zone and to move into more of a leadership zone. I wasn't interested in doing that, but that's a point of power. So, and it's necessary sometimes to move you forward, as you know. So I have several very significant groups that have meant so much to me, that have really helped me move forward. But it all started with my mother, who I call my mother the Queen. She was very queenly to me. My mother led me, not so much, occasionally she would give words, but it was more so by example of what she did. And I looked to other people, male or female, as examples. And I'm gonna tell you, Ramona, the thing that I love about you most is that you are so fearless. You are scary fearless. I mean, you do. I mean, you just take on things that I can't imagine some women would do, beginning with how you came here. You know, alone. Truly, it's just amazing. When I've read that part of your story, you know, my eyes got wide because I always felt very protected. And, you know, the fact that as a woman, you stepped out into the world, not speaking English, and doing things that I'm not sure I would have done. Like, you know, I, I truly, and even now, you take a step, a step, a step, a step, a step forward, always finding the new part of you. And I have great admiration for that. I don't call myself fearless. I still have fear, but I think we all have to rise above our fear. Good morning, Patricia.
Hi, Patricia.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Am I on time? Am I early or what?
Yes,
Well, no, not
I mean,
quite.
am I
You're quite late.
okay? But I'm on time.
I
I'm sorry. Say that again.
said, I guess you're on time. We must have walked into the time you were supposed to speak. You look beautiful.
yes,
Oh,
it is
so
so
do you. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Ramona,
Thank you.
before we move forward, and while Patricia's settling, I saw an interesting comment in the chat
yes,
that I would like to respond to.
yes, please.
This person was saying, and it happens to be a male viewer, I won't read everything he wrote, that he's not against women getting power, but his basic thing is he thinks that women are the heart of the home. I think that's what I wrote. And that's the person that's the central person to keep things all pulled together. Yeah, and I hope I read that right. And I really would like to respond to that because I thought that was quite a powerful question.
Yes.
I grew up in a home where my mother was there because she worked there, you know. She was not the traditional mom in that she stayed in the kitchen. As a matter of fact, my mother couldn't cook at all. We didn't want her to cook. But I love the fact that my mother was there when we came home from school. That was wonderful. But I also lived in a commune. I grew up in a very small town, teeny weeny little community, 5 miles long, 3 miles wide. Everybody knew each other. Everybody's mama was your mama. Everybody's daddy was your daddy. That's the kind of place I grew up in. It was wonderful. But we had to take care of ourselves. So even back then, my mother had to leave sometimes. She had to get a second job sometimes to make ends meet. And I think that's part of the reason women had to go to work. A good part of it started during the war, when all the men went off to World War I, World War II. The soldiers went off to fight for this country. and women were left to take care of things. And you need money to do that. That's how America works. Money runs everything.
Yeah.
And so they had to go out in the factories and work and do that. And when they started doing that, they thought, well, we can do this. We can do this and handle our families too. Some people don't do a good job of it, I admit. Everything requires balance, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And the balance to me, to that gentleman who wrote this, means the women don't run everything. I feel that a marriage is a partnership. That's what I feel. And you give a balanced input. I love a man who can cook. I'm like my mother. I don't want to live in the kitchen. That's not my favorite place in the house. So people who know me know that's not my gift. But I say to the gentleman who wrote this, I feel that the heart of the home are the two people who work in partnership to make it work. Whatever your gift is, you give it. And that's just what I truly believe. I don't think the woman's place is in the kitchen. That's not where I lived when I was married. That's not where I live now. My mother's place wasn't in the kitchen, but her contribution was tremendous. Mm-hmm. My mother was a teacher. She implanted so many gifts in all of her sons and her daughters, and her one daughter. But the thing that she gave us the most was the freedom to be whoever we are. If she discovered a gift in us, she nurtured that, took her little pennies and paid for it. I remember when she discovered that my brother had artistic talent, and I won't make this long. My brother was a gifted artist. He was a craftsman, and my mother discovered he could draw. We were poor, but my mother scraped up her little pennies and sent him to, we would call it online now. Then it was a mail-in kind of thing, school. Mm-hmm. So that he could learn more about what art was all about. And my brother developed that his whole life. He was a master craftsman. He could build anything. And that was because of what my mother planted in him. So I think we take all of our gifts, join them all like that network, Ramona, all together. And as a unit, we are powerful. So that's my response to that gentleman. Somebody else's response might be different.
Yes, and before come to Patricia, let me tell you this. I got married with my husband, and for 12 years, he was working in construction. In 2008, he got very sick, and without English, without know how to drive, I had to look for a job. I got a job thanks to my sister-in-law. And my husband didn't like it because he wanted me staying home, cooking and taking care for everyone. But I took the decision and I say myself, I'm gonna stay in my house without money, looking my children begging, wanted something for the store or asking me for something that I cannot buy, my husband cannot buy because we don't have money. So I just took it. I just took the job. I learned how to drive. I got lost. I didn't understand for a year the instruction for my managers or my coworkers. But I decided to go out and provide for my children and my husband because my husband wasn't able, to move. He didn't have a strong enough. And one day, Jorge, my son, come and say, Mom, I miss you so much in home. I miss you, you cook. I miss you, you clean the house. And I say, I miss staying home. But just think about it. I'm gonna sit down him in home, looking everybody suffering because there is no money. Unfortunately, you need money for everything. Yes. Nobody come and give you anything. And I told him, Right now, I have a good job, and you have to approach approach this. You have to learn that in life, you cannot have everything. And I cannot sit down to look my children the way I was in Mexico, suffering because you want something, or you are angry and you want to eat something, and your husband suffering, frustrated because there is no money, he cannot move, he cannot work. So I agree. I'm agree that we have to have a balance in home. We have to have balance. But during all these years that my husband is recovering from the transplant, he is the person that cooking home. He's the person who takes care for the children. I'm the person that I'm bring to my family. And this happened to everyone, but we have a balance. When I come home, you sit down with my children and my husband, and we talk and we laugh. But there is a balance between he and me. So I understand this gentleman, but we cannot sit down right now. The times have been changing.
Yes.
And when my husband, when your husband, your wife needs, you have to go in front. So I understand that. But in life, roles change, and change is hard.
Yes.
But always have to keep in mind the balance between family. I prefer, and I say this to all the women and men, when you get home, don't do anything. If your house is in bad shape, you sit down with children.
Yes.
Communication gonna put the balance the family needs right now. Okay, so I just want to share this because I think it's very important, and many people don't know. It's what people need to hear and what people need to practice.
Yes.
So yeah, Patricia, thank you so much for being here today. How you doing? Oh,
You're
you are
on mute.
mute.
Let me unmute myself, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you. This is good conversation.
Yes, Patricia, before the run times, telling us a little bit about you, what you do.
Hi. Well, let me just start from the more recent. First of all, I am retired. I retired after 35 years of working at IBM Corporation. And the last job that I had there was as technical support team lead. And so I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I think I am handling retirement even better than working. I'm listening to your story, Ramona, about how you had to kind of reverse the order of how you did what you are doing, which is you were at home first, and then you moved into the workforce. And I'm doing the opposite. I did the workforce first while raising a son, and I was married and the whole bit. But anyway, so what I do now is that I am really into the community, helping people to vote and to understand the issues and the candidates, and all things that lead to good legislation. So that's really what I feel as a need, and I feel that sometimes it's not as enjoyable as you might think, but is a necessary thing that I feel that has to happen. And also giving the younger people, the younger generation, hopefully they are taking note of what has to happen in a country like ours and in a government like ours. Things sometimes look like they are going one way, but you can affect the change. And that's what I want to impress and impart on everyone. You can affect the change. Your vote may be one, but just remember everybody has one. And even though you have a loud voice and you may think that you are swaying people, you only have one vote. So it is up to people like myself to get the message out and to encourage people to not only vote, but understand the issues and the people that you are voting for. So, that's my big spiel. And, I can go further back, I can go deeper. You just tell me which direction you want me to go in. But I know that this is Black History Month. And I would be remiss in not really sharing some of my experiences. And I came to Atlanta from a small town in South Georgia. And I lived in a farming community. And so within my community, you were either a farmer, a bricklayer, a housewife, a teacher, or something in between there, or you worked as a day laborer, now is what we called it, but then what it really was, you were cleaning homes and helping other people raise their families. So those were the major jobs that we had. So I came to Atlanta from South Georgia, little town called Soperton, Georgia. My town is wedged between Vidalia and Dublin is probably, from my hometown to Macon, is about 60 miles. So I'm straight down 16, and yes, I still go there. I still have family there and other ties that take me back and forth. But at any rate, when I came to Atlanta, I was on I think you would say, the cusp of integration. And I was the first in so many areas, as I'm sure a lot of Black people of my age group have the same testimony. But for an example, when I went to, say, my first job was at a very small collection agency. I knew nothing, but it was during the time when we had to have these quotas. And I know that I stepped through a lot of doors that people like Martin Luther King opened. So, but the pattern was this: you can open the door, but you really have to train people to go through that door and to be successful. So the door may be open, but if you don't have people that are trained and ready to go to work and do a good job, then that's only part of what you're trying to get to. It's all about all people. It's not just going through the motion of making it happen. You really have to have your people on board as well. So I kind of liken myself to, I probably, without even knowing it, but I was one of those people that was prepared to go into a lot of different opportunities. I took advantage of a lot of different opportunities. So when I came, I was in school. And from there, I had a part-time job. I think this was just like a little part-time job. And I didn't see anybody there that looked like me. I didn't realize that because it didn't really matter to me. I needed the job. And then from there, I worked in a bank. I worked in a couple of different banks. But the first bank, there again, there were only a few people that looked like me, because I was at the beginning of that. We're integrating jobs. And then from there, I moved I went back to school, went to Georgia State, and Georgia State was not student friendly. I think your son was at Georgia State. You tell him I said to tell me, thank you for paving the way. My husband and I were both at Georgia State. And let me tell you, it was not student friendly. I even had a teacher to tell me once, she says, maybe, and this was at the beginning of integration and everybody had to get used to the new norm. Maybe this is not the school for you, because we didn't have dormitories. And she said, because students don't really work or whatever, but I knew that wasn't true. Everybody worked, but it was her way of dealing with her new reality. I don't want people here that look like you. I'm struggling to teach people that look like you, but that didn't bother me, because I had a goal and I was motivated by my goal. And I had a strong family. My family was very, very strong. I told you I came from a small rural town, and the way the makeup of my family, it was 11 children. And what we did was my mom died when I was 2. So I don't have Ramona's story of having that wonderful mother in the home, and cooking and cleaning and all of that. My mother didn't make it to raise me. Okay. So with that in mind, it was my dad. So I'm the product of a single family, of a single parent. And that's another point that I want to make. The interesting thing about today and yesterday, and I call mine yesterday, I never heard the word single parent. That word was never used. You were just a parent. And again, like Ramona said, the community was my support. So, between church and school and the actual community, we did everything together. And I never had lack in my life, never had the lack part, because we were farmers and we had the farm. The only thing I had to do was work really, really hard on the farm. We had animals, we had crops, we had, things that we had to take care of. It was really hard work, but nevertheless, you were never hungry. You were never without anything. You had no lack. But at any rate, moving into and shifting from the rural community into a city community, the city opened up a lot of opportunities because, like I said, I was that person that had to be ready to step into those doors that the marchers had created.
Mhm.
So everybody had a role. You may not have known that you were part of the plan, but I was part of the plan
Mhm.
without knowing it. So my job was to prepare myself, um, and just walk into it and do a good job. That was my part of the whole integration program. And I could go on and on and on for days, actually, but I won't. I'll stop here and take a breath and let Ramona jump in. I can tell she's got a lot to say on that particular pivot in America's history, because what we both are is that we are walking testimonies to the way it was, the way it transitioned, and we have a really good rule of thumb to compare what's happening today with a lot of other movements
Mhm.
that are happening. I will tell you this, and I won't call the gentleman's name, but there's a well-known personality here in the city of it. I don't think he would mind me calling you the name Tom Hawk. I really don't know if you know Tom or not, but Tom was one of those people that was on the civil rights cusp, if you will. He was a very young man, and he worked with my brother-in-law and my sister. My brother-in-law was a civil rights activist. He worked with Vernon Jordan and worked with the Urban League. He was the director for the Atlanta Urban League. So directly in my family, there was a lot going on, but I was so young, I didn't really get involved in anything. I didn't know what was really happening. But now that I am older and I can read the articles, I now see those, um, I see the movement. The thing about the civil rights movement is that it was all hands on deck. Whether you were Jewish, whether you were black, whether you were white, whether you were Hispanic, whether you were, I don't care where you were from, it was all hands on deck. So it may not have looked like everybody was involved, but there were layers of how that really worked. As in, you had people in the back rooms that never came out. They were the backroom people, and you'll hear their stories from time to time. Jesse, help me here. Jesse, he died in the last 5 years. He was the accountant for the civil rights movement. When Dr. King went to jail, Jesse Hill was the one that came up with the money. So you had pieces and components of this whole thing. The people that march may never have gone out and done anything independently, but their work was crucial because you needed the people to support the mission. And there again, I can go on and on and on. But yeah, I mean, you know, we all have these stories, but as you both know, you're both writers. And I think it is incumbent upon us, if we don't do anything but do a recording, to tell your story. Because the people in the movement, a lot of your leaders are gone. And a lot of the people that were much younger have stories that have not been told. I mean, you know, what was it like to sit in a classroom and look at the books that came from another school and you saw another child's name in that book that you never heard of? You knew they were not in your school.
Mm.
What did that really feel like? Did you even know it? You know, be honest. Did you really pay attention to that? Because here's what happens in life. If you only know the bad side of life, if you've only been beaten, you don't know what it's like to have a room at the Ritz-Carlton. You have nothing to connect you Carlton. You only know the drudgery. You understand what I'm saying? It's like you don't have anything to compare it to. So I think, you know, we hear about the people that we know about, but there are stories from people that we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that stories is what we want to hear and what we want to transmit to the young generation, because they must know what are the sacrifices behind them, you know, and understand their lives right now, the mission and the purpose to being here right now in this society.
Right.
The time is running, Patricia, but it's very interesting, and I hope we continue this conversation next month if you are available, because I think it's something that we need to put out. I feel this has been amazing, and thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna translate a little bit about the content on this show in Spanish. But I appreciate it, both of you. Thank you so much from my heart. What do you have in share? And I treasure all of this from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Pauline,
for having me. Thank you.
oh no, you're welcome, Patricia. Pauline, thank you. So Pauline and Patricia Lobet, Pauline Mansfield y Patricia Lobet, ellas han compartido con nosotros este programa, algo de sus experiencias, de lo difícil que ha sido para ellas salir adelante en sus carreras, ver cómo antes eran los tiempos, cómo antes eran las cosas, las historias que ellas traen de otras personas en el momento que ellas les tocó vivir. Y todo esto nos llega a un punto en común que es las conexiones. ¿Qué es las conexiones y relacionar nuestro pasado, el pasado de nuestros ancestros, el pasado de nuestros abuelos y hacer nuestra vida en el presente, recordando que la vida es difícil, pero que si tú tienes una meta en la vida, no importa qué es lo que te esté pasando, no importa qué sufrimientos tengas o qué ataduras tengas, si tú estás consistente en lo que tú quieres hacer, tú lo puedes hacer. Tuvimos un comentario de un señor, es muy respetable, diciendo la falta de la mujer en la casa, básicamente. Pero yo les digo esto. Mujeres, tenemos que salir a trabajar, tenemos que desarrollarnos, tenemos que tomar nuestra educación, nunca olvidando que tenemos nuestra casa, tenemos nuestro esposo, tenemos nuestros hijos. Y a pesar de que estemos tan ocupadas y que el día se nos vaya como agua y de que por nuestro trabajo tenemos responsabilidades, siempre tenemos que tener en cuenta nuestros hijos, nuestra responsabilidad, porque nuestra familia, todos sabemos como mujeres que nuestra familia depende de nosotros. Los hombres quieran decirlo o no, pero nosotros somos los que les damos fuerza a nuestros hijos y a ellos al mismo tiempo. Entonces, hay que tener un balance, entre nuestro trabajo y nuestra responsabilidad en la casa. Y yo les voy a decir, yo trabajé mucho en otros trabajos y llegaba muy cansada y miraba mi casa tirada y no había comida. Bueno, mi esposo hacía comida, pero yo no me ponía a limpiar. Yo llegaba y me sentaba con mis hijos a platicar. Tenía la comunicación. Nos reíamos, mirábamos películas, todo. Porque hay que tener un balance. El quehacer nunca se acaba. La casa no se va a ir, pero el tiempo se va. Tus hijos crecen, tu esposo se hace grande también, y si tú no pones atención, ellos lamentablemente a veces pues pierden el interés, y es algo que tiene uno que mantener, si te interesa, claro. Pero lo importante de esta plática es salir adelante en un balance, recordar nuestras tradiciones, nuestras raíces, de dónde somos, y enseñarle a nuestros hijos de dónde somos y por qué se tienen que sentir orgullosos de dónde vienen, de quién son sus papás, quién son las personas que están alrededor de ellos. El tiempo se nos va, pero este mensaje es muy importante. Cuídense mucho. Les agradezco mucho el tiempo que ustedes toman en mirarnos, en darnos un like a WCEG, y pueden repetir nuestros programas en WCEG Network en YouTube. Thank you so much, Patricia, Pauline. Thank you for sharing. And we want to continue this conversation because it's something that I really enjoy and I really feel is important to have. Patricia, thank you so much for the job you are doing in the community. And we want to talk more about it because it is very important topic. And it's something that many people don't put attention, focus on that, but it depends a lot things on that. Okay. So I'm gonna see you next month.
Muy gracias.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.
Hasta luego.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Can you hear me, Penny?
Okay, I'm back. I had to make sure I cut everything off. We have ended the show. Great show. Sorry your guest was a little bit late, but it's okay. I will see you next month.
Okay.
Your same topic, or you're going to do another topic? You're going to keep the topic the same, part 2?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'll see you next month. Have a good day.
Thank you, Penny. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. How's your grandbaby?
Okay.
Bye-bye.